rough draft, not much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m., September the 7th, 2021. Time to call the city council meeting to order. Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Mr. Austin, Mr. Blankenship,
Present.
Mr. Hugo,
Present.
Ms. Jones,
Present.
Ms. McGinnis,
Here.
Mr. Ryerson, Mr. Taylor.
Here.
So we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese, would you lead us in prayer and pledge, please?
I will invite you to join me if you'd like. Our Father, we come to you tonight. We thank you so much for the privilege it is to assemble together as those on the council and community members here in this room. And we pray that the business tonight be led by wisdom, knowledge, and desire to do what is best for our community. We thank you for the good work that is done here. We do thank you so much for our country, our troops, our even local law enforcement, fire, and emergency support teams that do so much to protect and serve our community. Thank you for them. Continue to protect them. Bless their work. Be with everything that takes place tonight, the decisions made. May they be guided by you. And we pray your blessings on this night. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you,
Mr. Brian. Is there any announcements, presentations, public comment that's not on the agenda? I will start off with the swearing in of Marshall Percival as Mayor of Lieutenant. He's not here tonight, so we'll do that at another date. So is there any other announcements, presentations, or public comments that is not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I am going to ask Maggie from our Mayor's Youth Council if you will introduce the other Mayor's Youth Council people present.
Yeah, if they just want to stand up, we have Morgan Harvey, Brandon Beekman, and Alex over there.
All right, thank you guys for attending. Appreciate it. Our Mayor's Youth Council, for those of you that don't know, do a lot of good community work here in the city, and it has done a lot in the past. For example, of the all-inclusive playground that's over in Scott Park, doing painting the electrical boxes around the town, and just other community projects that add to our community. So thank you again. Is there any other announcements, presentations, or public comment? Hearing none, we'll go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will go into old business. We need a motion to...
Move to approve the read open businesses by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to read by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
I know nobody's opposed to this. Hearing none, we will go into the public hearing. Item number 1, Common Council Ordinance number 21-17, annexation being known as the Steric annexation, 130.60 acres, and Common Council Resolution number 21-29, adopting fiscal plan for annexation to be known as the Steric annexation. Senior Planner Joanna Tim.
Good evening. Actually, I would like to make the request that item number 1 and 2 have the public hearing combined as they are related, the annexation and the zoning, if the council so chooses.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, you should have a motion to combine and second finalists.
Just for the public hearing, we're still not voting on the public.
The process tonight on this, as well as the PRNL, you should recall, we have a public hearing, and we will close the public hearing and actual vote on, there will be a vote on the annexation fiscal plan only, which does not approve zoning at all. The question on fiscal plan is their ability to give services they decide to give. We vote on the fiscal plan, the actual vote on annexation, as well as rezoning, because the statutory requirements will occur at the October 4th council meeting. a motion to hear together.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to hear the first two items at the same time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I think at this time, Ms. Gray, could you set the
Yeah, typically, we don't have any formal time limitations, but what we have typically done in the past as council members is permitted the petitioner 15 minutes to make a presentation. We've then allow interested parties and remonstrators 15 minutes, and then we allow 5 minutes for the petitioner to then have a rebuttal period of time. And then we close the public hearing, and council members have the right, without any time limitations, to ask any questions of either the petitioner, remonstrator, the staff, whoever you wish to do so. You also obviously have the right to extend those times if you feel it necessary. I would only say that you should extend them equivalently to both sets of parties. We'll make 20, 20, and 5, that's fine. Typically, what you have done is 15, 15, and 5. You have 2 tonight, so keep that in mind.
Good evening. The request before you this evening is both an annexation and rezoning. At the June 15th, 2021 meeting, the Planning Commission did forward a favorable recommendation for annexation by a vote of 7-2. And then at the July 20th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation with written commitments to rezone approximately half of the 130 acres to RS2 with commitments, which are outlined in your packet, and then also RS3 with written commitments, also included in your packet. The property is located on the west side of Hurricane Road, immediately north of Heritage Subdivision and south of Hollywood Drive. As Ms. Gray indicated, this evening is the public hearing for both the annexation, fiscal plan, and rezoning, with official action to be taken on October 4th. Included in your packets is also copies of the Planning Commission staff report and the Planning Commission meetings. That way you have the information that was presented at those meetings and information that the neighbors have provided. And it is ready for representatives of 4-Star petitioner to present.
Do you have PowerPoint?
This is your power.
There you go. Okay, exactly. You should have a hard copy as well, that would benefit the public that's here. We have the production as well. I'm delighted to be here tonight, back in Franklin, to discuss 4-Star's proposal to partner with the city of Franklin in its future by way of a new residential development, which we have been calling the Highlands. I say that somewhat tentatively because I think the name may be subject to change. We have the comment from your staff. Apparently there's another subdivision in Johnson County which uses Highlands in part of its name. So we probably will be changing this, but to avoid confusion, I'm presenting it tonight under the same name that the Planning Commission presented it. My name is Melissa Gerard. I am the entitlements manager for 4-Star Group. I have with me tonight a lot of other folks from 4-Star and D.R. Horton as well. I have Jeff Pape, who is our division president, and I have Mark Mastrocco, who is 4-Star's director of land acquisition. I have Brian Gray, who is he's a director of entitlements, but he's our resident in-house PE, professional engineer, and he was formerly the assistant city engineer for the city of Noblesville for 27 years before coming to 4-Star. And then last but not least, certainly, I have with me Mark Bridwell, who is the division vice president of land acquisition for 4-Star, or no, for D.R. Horton, sorry. And Mr. Bridwell is going to speak to you tonight for a few minutes about their interest in your community at the conclusion of my presentation. This matter comes to you with a 8-2 favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on the annexation and a unanimous recommendation on the zoning. We have worked very hard in conjunction with your staff to satisfy all of staff's requests, including developing written commitments that address such items as landscaping, buffering, and architectural standards designed to ensure the quality of homes in our community. We have satisfied all their comments, and there are no remaining issues outstanding in terms of staff's comments to the project. If I could scroll through to page 2 now. I wanted to open by telling you a little bit about Forestar. Forestar is the largest national residential lot developer in the country, with operations as of the last fiscal quarter in 55 markets across 22 states. We own and control about 96,600 lots, and we are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange and rely on equity financing for our operations. Forestar is 65% owned by D.R. Horton, the nation's largest residential home builder by volume. This is actually a pretty unique relationship between a builder and a developer, and I'm not aware of any other such formalized ties between any other developer and builder in central Indiana. In that connection, please allow me to tell you a little bit about our relationship with D.R. Horton and our process for partnering on new developments. While we have contracts in place that give them rights to this project even before we have a finished product to offer for sale, our company policy, we don't really finalize a site-specific agreement for development until after the project is approved and Forestar closes on the property. That said, we have been working very closely with D.R. Horton on every aspect of this project from the beginning. A representative of D.R. Horton attended an early meeting with your staff, and we have been meeting with them about this project about every other week since early April. I have run every draft of the written commitments by D.R. Horton's division president to ensure that he is prepared to comply with them. He has seen every draft. Mr. Bridwell is here tonight and will address you in a moment, but we are not engaging in any such coordination with any other builder. In short, we have no reason to believe that D.R. Horton will not be exercising his contractual rights to be the builder for this project, and Mr. Bridwell is here tonight to confirm as much. I would like to direct my attention to the site and the project. If we could move on to the next slide, please. This is just an aerial map that shows the location of the project, which I'm sure you're pretty familiar with, and overlaid over the other properties in the vicinity. You go to the next one. So one of the interesting aspects of this, or challenges of this site, is the adjacent zoning. As you will note, the property immediately to the west of this property is all zoned industrial, and there's basically an overlay over that for a low-income opportunity zone. And as Ms. Gray confirmed at the Plan Commission, this is actually the only low-income opportunity zone in all of Johnson County. So we were challenged to provide a transitional use from some of the other adjacent uses to less intense uses. We go to the next slide. This is your comprehensive plan, only I have modified it a little bit to shade in and show our development, which is currently shown as unannexed to your comprehensive plan. But you will note that I have colored it sort of a middle shade of yellow. The property to the east is shown on the comprehensive plan as, what's it called exactly, large lot suburban. And the property to the south is shown as small lot suburban residential. So lots and homes to the north and east are a little bit larger than ours, but lots and homes to the south are smaller, and of course to the west is industrial. We think this is a good example of transitional zoning, transitioning from less intense land uses to more intense land uses, meaning the industrial and smaller lots. We have also transitioned internally within our development from the R3, which is adjacent to the smaller lots in the Heritage subdivision, up to the R2, which is adjacent to the county properties to the north. We have designed this project, you can go to the next slide, please, thank you. This slide is kind of small, looking at this one, but I've also given you a larger blow-up in your packet to look at. Look at. Some of those ponds may be changing in exact location for drainage considerations, but generally there are going to be a lot of ponds and a lot of area covered in the ponds. We have designed the project to include 143 premium lots, including waterfront or oversized lots. You go to page 7. I conducted an analysis of the assessed valuation in a neighborhood in a geographic area sufficient to pick up the house at the southwest corner of Earlywood Drive and 300 North and Hurricane Road. We have also given you historical sales data, and we submitted all the MLS numbers to the Plan Commission for D.R. Horton's recent sales in Johnson County, and this slide reflects those numbers. The total assessed valuation of residential properties in the neighborhood is almost $48 million. The mean assessed valuation per lot for these residential properties is $221,280 and some change. The median assessed valuation for the residential properties in this neighborhood is $199,750. The average D.R. Horton Johnson County sales price in the last 6 months is $391,000. This means that the average D.R. Horton home in Johnson County is about $170,000 or 43% more than the mean assessed valuation in this neighborhood, and over $190,000 or 49% more than the median assessed valuation in the neighborhood. Now, I do understand that there are some larger lots to the north and to the east, but that is why we have tried to transitionally zone even within our subdivision from less intense to, or from the more intense to the less intense up in the north. Finally, I wanted to give you some elevations of actual products that D.R. Horton is currently building in Johnson County. You go to the next few slides. This is a model that they are currently building in both Highland Knoll, which is in Bargersville. Highland Knoll is Johnson County Greenwood, unincorporated Greenwood area, and Saddlebrook Farms is in Bargersville. And you can see the prices on here. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is another home that they're building in Pleasant Valley, which is unincorporated Greenwood. The next slide. And this one is being built in Bargersville's Highland Knoll. And the next slide. And Pleasant Valley, again, unincorporated Greenwood for $441,000, and Saddlebrook Farms for $369,000. Sorry, I think I misspoke. Saddlebrook Farms is in Whiteland, and Pleasant Valley is in Greenwood, and Highland Knoll is in Bargersville. So we think that this site is superior, especially to the Whiteland site, so the prices may be a little lower for Saddlebrook Farms, but we expect them to be higher here. You go to the next slide. And this one's being sold in all 3 communities: Bargersville, Greenwood, and Whiteland. And the next slide. And this one is being sold in Greenwood and Bargersville. All of these elevations meet or exceed the square footage requirements agreed to in the written commitments. They exceed the window and exterior commitments agreed to in the written commitments. They substantially exceed the exterior material requirements agreed to, including at least 50% brick or masonry on the front elevation, and the incorporation of multiple materials and colors. All of these meet or exceed the roof pitch requirements agreed to in the written commitments, and the minimum 12-inch gable overhang. All of these meet the limitation on the front elevation comprised by the amount of the front elevation comprised by the garage door. I was presented tonight with an email from staff, a response to Mrs. Acton and Mrs. Norton. I haven't met Mrs. Norton, but I have met Mrs. Acton, and she generally is affiliated, she doesn't own anymore, but is affiliated with the property directly south of our property, which we call the SNAP property. We have addressed, I met long ago with the neighbors, and I have been attempting very diligently to work with all the neighbors on this project. We had a neighbor meeting, and I met with Mrs. Acton and many others at that point, and I've been addressing all of the comments. So these comments are new to me tonight. I've been talking to her for months. We have also, Mr. Mercer is involved with the properties to the north. We've actually met him on his site. I actually took our Director of Land Development, basically our construction branch of our business, out to look at his site and talk about, you know, we're kind of early in the process for some of the things, but to talk over site constraints and buffering and things like that. So we are working very hard, but I would note that Mrs. Acton submitted a note, and your staff has responded to that, and generally I would say that your staff's responses are spot on. I couldn't have done any better myself. They are what I would tell you the same. There are two items in here I think that maybe call for our response, and one is a limitation on rental, no rental clause in the HOA bylaws, which, number one, I would respond that probably the bylaws isn't the right place to put that. But number two, it's kind of illegal. Fannie Mae regulations currently do not allow that because it restricts Fannie Mae's rights if they were to have the property. So people can't get financing if they're using a product that has Fannie Mae in it if we put a clause like that in there. But more importantly, I really don't think it's a consideration on this property. As you can see, our price points are going to be at, you know, $3, $4, almost $500,000 in some cases, and those aren't really the houses that you would be concerned about with rental. I mean, people don't buy $400,000 and $500,000 houses for rental purposes. I think I'll reserve the rest of my comments, but I'll let Mr. Bridwell address you real quickly. Here.
You have a minute, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mark Bridwell. I'm the Division Vice President of Land Development at D.R. Hortons. As Melissa said, D.R. Hortons is the nation's largest home builder. We've been building homes for over 25 years in the greater Indianapolis market and currently have 17 communities in the metropolitan area. We are eager to be in the Franklin market and move forward with this project. The city of Franklin offers everything our homeowners look for in terms of quality of life, including great schools, parks, recreation, highway access, employment opportunities, a charming historic downtown, a college town, shopping, dining, and cultural opportunities. As Melissa stated, we've been working with them very closely. We are working with them on 7 to 8 projects right now, and are eager to work with this project. I'm excited. Thank you.
In the interest of fairness, will be 17 minutes then for the other side.
So the presenter, we're closing the presenter at this time, and now ready to hear somebody with the other side. And while Linda's walking up, I want everybody to know that the questions and answers that were received, Linda had given Ms. Morton had given me the last meeting, and I didn't have your email address, so you handed it to me, so I didn't email it to you. So Mark, Joanna, and myself answered the questions that she had for us, and I distributed them out to the city council so they can see the same questions.
I am Linda Norton. I've lived on Hurricane Road for 47 years. Our family has farmed here in Franklin for 7 generations. I owned a gift shop in Franklin for 15 years on Jefferson Street, and am a founding member of Discover Downtown Franklin, an organization in which I'm still actively involved. I love this community. Downtown Franklin has become a destination in recent years, thanks to the hard work of many organizations and volunteers. Shopping, dining, and entertainment, including the Art Craft Theater, Johnson County Museum of History, well-organized festivals, thanks to Discover Downtown Franklin and the Parks and Rec Department, and amazing walking and bike trails are just a few of the amenities. Our town is like a picture on a Hallmark card and has definitely been noticed by developers as a place to be. They are happy to ride the coattails of something others have spent years in creating. I'm aware that some development is inevitable, but our city council needs to stop and consider the end product. Carmel, Zionsville, Noblesville, Westfield, and Fishers were all small communities not so long ago. And today the growth and congestion is something to avoid. It is critical that Franklin does not have a similar outcome. I've spoken with realtors from 4 different Franklin offices asking them, what is it that your customers are looking to buy? The top 2 answers from them were 1, an acre or more where they could build, and 2, homes in the 300,000 to 400,000 range. There are several new subdivisions to be voted upon in the coming weeks. The Kingsbridge development on Franklin's north side is planning 63 homes priced $275,000 to $375,000, and 177 homes in the $350,000 to $450,000 range. So that price range mentioned by the realtors is being met there. The Cumberland Trail extension of 125 homes with prices beginning in the $200,000 meets the needs of more affordable housing. The Bluffs at Youngs Creek offer over 100 homes, $224,000 to $283,000, and there's still lots of homes available in all 15 active subdivisions in the Franklin area, from 150 in Knollwood Farms to 500 plus in the Hillview New Windsor section. Where is the opportunity for the people who would like to have an acre or more of land? They need an opportunity for rural development. The Sterrick Farm on Hurricane Road that is under contract to be purchased by Forestar is a perfect location. This option would be wonderful for those individuals seeking a rural setting with downtown access with only a bike ride. I've heard comments that we need more rooftops to support our downtown business. I have 2 remarks to that. First, there are hundreds of new homes under construction within a 15-minute drive of Franklin. Whiteland's new Southbrook Farms, as was mentioned, a DR Court subdivision, plans for 260 homes, and the Briar Creek in Whiteland plans for 200. Bargersville and Shelbyville are also being targeted for major housing development, so there's no shortage of people who will support the downtown, which is already a highly desirable destination. More rooftops mean more roads and more hard surface, which leads to more water runoff. One only needs to listen to the problems created by Hurricane Ida in the Northeast, not only in the cities, but in the suburbs. News reports warn that communities need to plan more green space to soak up and help handle these potential large rainfall events. Do you remember the flood of 2008? Retention ponds help, but the water from the proposed 347 houses added to all of the existing houses and streets within the Heritage and Legends developments north of Franklin will run across the Legends Golf Course, down Hurricane Creek, and into the city where it joins Youngs Creek in Province Park. I quote from the Franklin Comprehensive Plan, water quantity and quality issues will become more prevalent as areas in Franklin and northern Johnson County develop. The Youngs Creek watershed is already experiencing detrimental impacts from recent development, and these impacts will continue to worsen as economic activity and community growth increases. End of quote. Taking over 100 farmland acres and replacing them with multiple hard surfaces should be a concern for everyone. According to their website, as has been stated, Forestar is based out of Arlington, Texas, and is in 50 farm markets in 22 states. And as you also know, is 65% owned by D.R. Horton. Of their 96,600 total lots owned and controlled, do they have any plans for rural residential and R1 development? If so, why wasn't that presented, since it is definitely a needed option? If not, here is an opportunity for them to set themselves apart, showcase their creativity, and prove that they truly want to enhance Franklin's housing market options. I quote from their website, each development is thoughtfully designed with the community needs and preferred lifestyle in mind. The Sterrick Farm is an ideal location to be innovative. Design a neighborhood to blend with the existing homes and properties to the north and east, and not just be an extension of another subdivision. We already have 4 subdivisions on Hurricane Road with diverse housing choices and price range. The Sterrick property is a profitable farm, but if it is eventually to be developed, it offers transition from existing housing development to rural residential, and then to farm ground. I reference again the comprehensive plan. Development pressure will continue to threaten prime farmlands on the urban fringe of the city. Development decisions must be made with a mind toward the preservation of the highest quality farmlands in the area. The city needs to do due diligence and research the quality of four-star developments around the country and all builders, including D.R. Horton, who want to come to Franklin. There are many questions that need to be answered before any agreement is made. If Four-Star and D.R. Horton have no interest in meeting one of the top two housing needs, we ask that the City of Franklin leadership delay any approval until a new plan is presented that will complement, support, and honor the heritage and character of the town that we call home. Thank you.
Mayor, there's still 10 minutes, 36 seconds available to interested parties who want to motion.
So anybody else want to speak? Take your time, we're good.
This gentleman's approach, I just wanted to point out, the city is not reaching an agreement to anybody about the ordinance. Just as a board choice, but it doesn't matter. We either approve or we don't approve. We don't reach agreements. This is either to the point of, I'm sure it's a board choice on here, but it is politics. We're not in a agreement. Thank you, sir.
Hi, George. Good evening. My name is Pat Koreski, and I live on the White Farmhouse on Hurricane Road with big maple trees and a blue mailbox. So that's the reference for everybody across the street. Is it blue mailbox and turn right? We moved there out of Bella Vista as we were looking for a nice, peaceful place where we weren't interrupted, and the next door neighbor was a drug dealer. So because of the turn of property when the interest rates went down. This is like a 3-acre spot. It's quiet, it's peaceful. For the longest time, it was either corn or soybeans across the street, and there's 2 legs of the golf course behind us on the Burton space. A little bit of change happened. The Davidsons moved up on the north side, and the Mercer complex or compound, whatever it is, they showed up on the opposite side. Great neighbors, no complaints. I kind of given the context here, just want to share some of my credentials. I have a bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering. I was had a professional engineering certification for many years, and I was also a professional project manager. Also, too, with respect to construction, I'm a 4th generation woodworker. Back to my grandfather, who built the breweries in Milwaukee. I worked with my father in his construction business for new homes, remodeling, and some light commercial. I learned a lot from both of them. And that's about all for me. I want to talk about 2 things: the impact on the construction of 347 homes on the physical road hurricane, and also too about the quality of their homes as I determined from some rating systems. So on Hurricane Road, there's a simple math. 347 homes, everybody has at least 1 car. That's 347 cars that are going to hit that road. More or less everybody leaves between 6:30 and 8:30 to go to work. That's a big time for 347 cars to come out of there and hit that road. Same thing when everybody comes home. It's a busy street to begin with, concrete trucks, semis, delivery trucks, all day long. So there's what I see here is right now it's a chip. It's a tar and chip. Can't remember the correct term.
Like 2 minutes.
Say again?
Like 2 minutes.
Okay. I have, and I'm looking at this and said, this is not sufficient service to support all that traffic. It's too narrow, it doesn't get lines, and so on and so forth. So I'm asking, respectfully requesting the board involved to take that into consideration before any approvals be heard. I mean, I think Forestar should be doing an in-depth analysis of needs for that level of traffic on that road. It needs work no matter what, but that's going to be a big hit. So, next I want to talk about the quality of the home. From my research, I looked at 2 different organizations. One was the Consumer Affairs. Their overall rating for the quality of D.R. Horton homes was 1.3 out of 5. And I've got a bunch of comments from the people. All the people from, all the comments from that organization are from last month, August 2021. And I've got some in here is, day 1 was very disappointing. The workmanship was very poor, sloppy. I had issues with my AC unit, and the technicians looked at it 5 to 6 times and no resolution. Now is it, I don't know, gas smell is hitting anything for me, the AC vent. I want to have a little hang at it, go look, stay with my daughter because I didn't know what anything is going to be toxic. You know, that's not a good situation. Another comment, the bricks for the house are buried under the front yard, under the dirt, in front of the driveway. The house sat approximately 2 months without no work being done. I went to several homes which were just shells, and they started working on them, and they completed their completion before ours. Another comment, 5 months, okay, these people were in it March 21st, 5 months into it, they had black mold. 5 months after they entered a brand new home, they had black mold generating on the upstairs toilet ceiling. And they sent a warrant to D.R. Horton and are told because they keep their thermometer, their thermostat at 78 degrees, the warrant could be approved. And the thing with this guy was from Florida. He says nobody in Florida keeps their thermostat at 78 degrees. No way. He says a little less than that. So they, that's just a couple there for that. I've got more. Another guy said shoddy homework has been bad. And a bad warranty. Things in the house have a lot of work to do. I can just get this, you know, I've got a lot of stuff here. I know we only have 2 minutes. Okay, but that's it. I've got more on Better Beers, the Better Business Bureau. Their rating was 1.5 out of 1.4 out of 5 with similar comments about the shoddy workmanship. And very, very poor customer support.
Lydia, you got 3 minutes.
I'll take 1 minute. Hi, my name is Matt Hobbs, I live at 1030 Park Avenue. Like this gentleman, professional engineer myself, I actually work in the development, water wastewater industry. 42-year resident, and really why I choose to live in Franklin is just because it's unique, it's special. It's not Carmel, it's not Hubblesville, it's not Westfield. We just hope that, you know, we're smart about our development. We don't let high-intensity EDU development take over our town, because from what I've seen throughout central Indiana, once one starts, it builds. It's really hard to just stave off developers, but appreciate your time.
I'll try. Good evening. I'm Dwayne Mercer, and I live at the Mercer Complex that Pat referred to there, just north of the development that's being proposed here. My wife and I, along with 3 of our 5 kids, were part of the 2019 new 30-acre home tract just north of the Forestar development. Well, we could have built just about anywhere. Our family decided to stay in Franklin simply because We enjoy the amenities that this small town with a big heart has to offer. Dining, shopping, the art craft, entertainment, farmers market, festivals, amphitheater. I know I don't want Franklin, as they mentioned, to turn into a Carmel or a Zionsville, not know when one starts and one ends. The mayor and this council are to be commended for their vision for this town. Just as it's hard to say no to your kids, especially grandkids, I also know it's very hard to say no to growth. We have to have tax base to support the infrastructure required to serve the public works in our schools and this influx of new children. But it's easy to say yes when the right opportunity presents itself. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked how we accomplished what we did. Where did we get these 5-acre tracts? Are there any more available around here for us to do exactly what you did up there? The Luger's Minor subdivision that we bought into was 14 5-acre lots, and they were sold or committed to within 90 days from the date that it was announced. In fact, some of my neighbors have even, that have not yet built, have been offered more money than they paid for the lots to acquire their lots today. The proposed area that they're talking about, as previously mentioned, would be a prime location for just such a development, and the increased lot size for a grass area to support and ensure that the watershed drainage would be absorbed before it gets to the retention ponds and ultimately Hurricane Creek. 15 minutes or 17 minutes is a very short time to get comfortable with all the issues in this project, from drainage to green space, the disappearance of farmland, the Hurricane Road, the traffic, the growth, new street lighting going to be required, talk of a new interchange out there is only going to create more traffic. Sewage plant design capacity, where does the increase in homes meet to the present infrastructure? Will the incremental cost and the flow require major redesign, enlargement of the current system? And who pays? We all know the ratepayers pay. And they talk about the mounding on the south side of my property, but they did meet with me. They have come back. At this point, it's too early in the design process to understand what they're going to build or what they're going to do, where the ponds are going to be, whether there's going to be enough dirt, not enough dirt, but they're willing to try and help me. I've even offered to donate all the trees that I have on my property to them to plant along there if they could accommodate that. As a practicing CPA for over 40 years, I can honestly say that I earn twice as much money in fees coming in after the fact and restructuring a business than doing it right in the first place. You are our voices for the questions concerning this project. We are counting on you to say yes only after all the issues and questions have been adequately reviewed and resolved to the council's satisfaction. To accomplish this, I would respectfully ask that the boards or commissions involved with drainage, street lining, roads, size of lots, that meet the demand, etc., meet and approve and resolve these issues before they come to the council for a vote for your approval to do this project. Let's get the decision right from the get-go. Thank you.
Council members, he was on a roll, so I let him go. But that does create 4 additional minutes to the demonstration, to the rebuttal commissions.
How much total time do I have?
You have 9 minutes instead of 5. That's correct.
I think I'd like to start with one of the last comments that Mr. Mercer made, and that's that 15 minutes is not enough for you to consider the issues involved in this project, and I agree. But that's why this project has been through Plan Commission over the course of 2 months and 2 Plan Commission meetings for the preliminary issues. Your staff has reviewed it at a technical meeting. We've worked with your staff outside of the meeting to address all of their comments. And the Plan Commission isn't done with us yet, even if you are to approve us with this request. We still have 5 to 6 months worth of TAC meetings and Plan Commission hearings for plat approvals and drainage board approvals. This is going to have to go to the Johnson County Drainage Board as well. We're just making a preliminary decision on the zoning and annexation tonight. A lot of the larger issues will be addressed over time. We have some information that we can share and help you with now. A lot of it is going to come later. But don't think that this 15 minutes that you're allowing for the remonstrators tonight is the only time that you have to consider this, because that's why the state law is structured to allow the Plan Commission to be the first eyes, basically the first responders on this kind of consideration. As to Ms. Norton's comments, I agree. I love Franklin. It's a charming town. Lots of culture, lots of sophistication. I've played baseball games here. Or my kids have. I've played baseball games here. I've attended music competitions here. You have it all. It's a very nice mix, and I'm not seeking to change that. In terms of your downtown vibrancy, I love the amphitheater. I've been to some of your festivals, but in my experience, adding residential development only increases the vibrancy and of the downtown energy, and it brings in new residents and new enthusiasm into a community. So I think that this subdivision will be an asset in that regard. As to her two prime considerations, the prime meridian for Star Trek, 1 acre or more, or 3 to 400,000. She concedes we're meeting the 3 to 400,000 from. In terms of the acre or more and the rural residential, I'll just say rural or 1 acre on public sewer and water does not work. It can't economically. It does not work. My guess is the Mercer complex and Mr. Mercer's large lot, 5-acre lots, do not have public sewer and water. You can't efficiently provide sewer and water on 5-acre lots. And in terms of her consideration, does 4-star do rural residential? We, as far as I know, do lots with public sewer and public water. So no, we don't do rural. We do public sewer and public water. And to do otherwise with the Sterrett property in particular, I think would be a waste of locational attribute of this property. There is sewer and water available to this property. There's other land, I assume on your immediate outskirts or in Johnson County, that does not have access to sewer and water, where it may be appropriate to put large lot development, should Johnson County decide that. But one of the locational attributes to be considered with this property is the availability of sewer and water and public services for from the city, which we would hope to bring to this community. Which I want to tie in with Mr. Mercer's comments. Who pays? The ratepayers pay, he says. That is not true. You have substantial availability and capacity fees that we will be paying with every lot on a per lot basis for this subdivision that are meant to consider the impact on the existing infrastructure and to keep that additional impact off of the existing ratepayers. That's the whole purpose of availability and capacity fees. Mr. Goretzky noted the impact on the road. I would just say that we are anticipating making certain improvements to Hurricane Road, including axle decel lanes and passing blisters that will essentially widen the road to accommodate in some locations. So that, I think, is something we are committed to doing. As to his comments about the quality of homes, I didn't hear him say perhaps that he had been to any of our sites in Johnson County that I've had in the Plan Commission record for a while. But we have no control over what they build in Florida. We have no control over building standards in Florida. All I can say is in Indiana, and I don't recall him saying any of those comments came from buyers in Indiana, there are communities that are recruiting me to come to their community as D.R. Horton, and more than one, that are recruiting us because they want D.R. Horton there, and they like the quality of their product. I can't really respond to comments on the internet in a different state. I don't know, I haven't seen them. I want to go to my last slide on the PowerPoint on the drainage. Ms. Norton mentioned water runoff, and I want to show you the current situation pre-development in terms of water runoff. We happen to have a little bit of drainage engineering. We are working with Fred Paris, who is developing the property across the street. Our engineers have been talking to his engineers, and we are coordinating on the drainage for this site. But this shows you the existing site conditions for sheet flow drainage off of this site. The area outlined in the blue, all in one shape or form, runs off unimpeded, undetained, currently under normal circumstances to the golf course. We feel that is why the parking lot floods at the golf course, because of this sheet flow off the property on this site. And some additional site in the yellow basin, you will see actually eventually probably ends up in the golf course too, but it, I think, probably goes through the heritage system first. We are going to be collecting all the water in that whole box on our subdivision and running it through our pond system and detaining it and releasing it at a much restricted rate over what the current sheet flow is currently. It will be in a location that is agreeable to Mr. Paris and Mr. Bishop. It will be underground, and it will be at a much reduced rate than what the current sheet flow is off of that property. And it actually should help the Snap property too, because that whole orange basin and that whole green basin actually drain to Miss Acton's property and then over to the golf course. So we feel that the drainage will be dramatically improved on the post-development circumstances after we put the pond systems in, and we basically break those, because it's not going to drain to the southwest corner or the southeast corner anymore. We're going to probably, we haven't worked out the exact location with Fred Paris yet, but it's probably going to be someplace up a little bit further north. So with that, unless you have any questions, do you have anything to add? No? I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, that I would respectfully ask for your approval of the Plan Commission's favorable recommendation on both annexation and zoning.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Mayor, at this time it's appropriate to close the public hearing. It is now also appropriate, just so that everyone knows, a lot of times when we do this in Planning Commission, we end up having council members ask questions, and then that prompts them to, the audience to ask more questions. It's technically just now for the council members to ask questions of anyone that you so, my timer's up, I can't say anymore. Anyone that you wish, whether it be petitioners, respondents, interested parties, or staff, if you wish.
I have a question. I understand it was 7-2 vote in favor. Did it go through okay on the first try? Did the planning commission, did it come snags?
I sat through all of them. You think I remember?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Joanna, was the 7-2 vote, was that the first vote that was taken?
We have two, didn't we have two hearings?
That was for the annexation. So the annexation and rezoning were first heard by Planning Commission at the June 15th meeting. So the annexation had an official vote of 7-2 for favorable recommendation before the City Council. The votes for the rezoning did not result in a majority of the full membership of Planning Commission. Therefore, it was automatically continued to the July meeting, at which time there were 9 members present, and upon information provided at that meeting both by the petitioner and remonstrator, the vote was taken, and Planning Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation with commitments of both the RS2 and the RS3 by a 9-0 vote.
Were they split votes? Some of those?
9-0.
9-0. So the official action forwarding to council was a 9-0 vote for favorable recommendation with the commitments outlined with the RS2 and the RS3 zoning.
The first planning commission, there was not a majority vote, but there was a majority of the actual entire board. There was not a majority vote.
get my head around that. You didn't have a majority, say that again.
But much like here, we have 7 members here. You have to have a majority of the entire planning commission vote to approve the rezoning favorable.
Okay, so there was some negative votes.
So there was, planning commission has 11 members. So to take official action, no matter how many members are present, you have to have 6 votes in favor
Okay, so
or
there
of
was.
a motion. We never reached, there was never 6 votes in favoring any of the motions. Therefore, 5-4, even though 5 is more than 4, is technically not the majority, therefore it's automatically
We didn't
executed.
have any, so there were actually motions made of 3 different types. One was to forward it with a favorable recommendation. There were not 6 votes in favor. Another was a motion to forward it with an unfavorable. There were not 6 votes in favor of that. And then there was a motion to forward it with no recommendation, and there was not 6 favor in favor of that. So it was continued automatically to the next screen. So the planning commission meeting, at which time we had 9 members there. The vote was 9 to a favor. Right. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you for answering.
Joanne, I was reading through it, and who actually is in charge of the kind of the road? I know there was some county owns part of it, we own part of it, and then it was, there was a change in there, and how does that work? What if we do annex in, who's in charge of the road then?
So upon annexations, starting in the late 90s, once the city annexes, the entire road then becomes jurisdiction of the city. So should we annex this property from the south boundary of the subject property to the north boundary of the subject property would become the city of Franklin's responsibility. The portion from the southern boundary of the subject property to the northern boundary of the heritage property that abuts Hurricane Road remains county jurisdiction.
That's why I was confused.
So we do have many roads in our area that it does do that. But as mentioned in the Plan Commission meeting, we've worked with the county on other road projects, should that become necessary.
And the city has never done what we call hostile annexations. So the only time we ever annex any property in is when someone comes and asks to be bought in. So as a result, it sometimes will be in pockets where someone doesn't ask to come.
This is not a question, but just a comment. We're being asked tonight to approve the fiscal plan, which essentially states that our city can afford the services out in that area, police, fire, water, et cetera, sewage, et cetera. So we're not really being presented anything tonight that is in support or against the fiscal plan. I think we just got to use our own subjective determination about we can afford it if it's approved.
There's a report that's attached, and you have to, just 1 minute history, we'll put it in context. The requirement under the law that before an entity annexes property, they have to show that they can provide the services to the property, was intended to keep entities from going into opting that property. Okay, in other words, you couldn't just go get property and sit on it forever. So what we have to make the determination on the fiscal plan, what that says is that if we do annex it, we have the capacity within our city to provide them with appropriate fire, appropriate police, water, sewer. We have that ability to do it, and that's why it's called a fiscal plan. It does not mean that you necessarily have to rezone. Adopting the fiscal plan just says if we wish to annex it, we could take care of it if we wish to.
Preliminary step.
That is a preliminary step. That's a
Just so you know, if you don't mind, that was one of the questions that Mrs. Morgan asked. So I gave you the physical plan in response to the questions.
That's what this is.
So page 39 through 45 of the packet that's online. The first couple of pages are the actual resolution that talks about streetlights and then also council districts. The fiscal plan, which is the last 3 pages of that, goes into a little bit more detail. And it is something that's comparable to what the current level of service. The way that this is outlined is on page 2 of that fiscal plan. It outlines each of the departments in Franklin. And then the per person and per acre and per household is actually taking our current budget, dividing it by all of those things. Number of people we have in the city of Franklin, number of acres, number of households. So that gives you a level of service of how much each of those cost for us to operate under each of those departments. So the projection is just that, it's a projection that for 347 households, you multiply that by the per household current level of service. That just gives an estimate on what we would anticipate that additional expense to be to operate each of the departments. So at the bottom, that total is $765,572.60. That is just an estimate. So then you look back through the rest of it about the taxes that will be generated, some of the fees that will be generated, and that's how this document is then presented to you.
Any other questions? Go ahead. Bob, any?
No, I think people need to understand whatever vote we make tonight is not on annexation or zoning. You have the fiscal plan, you always make that clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The only thing we're doing is saying we could.
Good.
That's correct. Fiscal plan didn't work.
I don't need to forestall this anymore, but once a fiscal plan on a property is done, say whether or not the annexation goes or not, is that something that has to be repeated each time a project is brought on this property?
Yes, anytime, for annexation, not for rezoning, but for annexation, absolutely.
Still learning.
Yeah, oh no, it's interesting. Like I said, it was really put in place to keep everybody, we're not grabbing property and not letting anybody else have it. If we can't take property, we should concern. So that's kind of a long history, years ago.
Is there any other questions? If not, I think Joanna, we're ready for a motion for the fiscal plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there any other questions for Joanna? I just want to address yours, Sean, on the road. If this happens, just like you had stated, it's that the road is turned over to the city. There is sections, especially by the Hillbrand property down at the end, which the county still has control of, even though those houses are annexed in. Joanna, will you tell Sean why that is? It's the law change.
Yes, the law changed. Somewhere in the late 90s, Indiana code had changed on when a city annexes property of how far you annex it. At one point, it was to the center line, or it was to wherever the legal description of that particular parcel went. Most of the time, it does go to the center line. Sometimes it didn't. So that caused a lot of confusion across the state. There was also a time where if it was on the north side or the east side, you only took one portion. It was just very, very complicated. So in the 90s, state legislature did make a change that stated anytime a city or town annexed property, that it would go to the other side of the right-of-way to encompass the entire road. Because it gets complicated when City of Franklin has to the center line while the county has to the other side.
And I just want, so the folks here know, I have been in conversation with county commissioners. At some point, if this goes The city of Franklin's going to try to take the rest of that road to 300 so that it can be the same and be uniform and not have pieces of the city and pieces of the county. If it gets to there, it needs to be uniform. So hopefully we can fix your road better. Any other questions?
And the clerk treasurer did, pose a question, I think this is the first time this question for Lynn, with the president absent. Does the board need to make a motion that he sign upon availability, or that we change it to the vice president signing the fiscal plan?
The fiscal plan, if they're going to approve it, we just make the vice president sign on behalf of it. And again, the only determination for fiscal plan is if you do decide to annex it, we will provide the services. It does not affect the rezoning decision. It's not ultimately affect the annexation decision. You cannot grant annexation without this one. But you can pass a fiscal plan and decide to take the official vote.
That all happens October 4th.
Yeah, yes, the last two things, but you cannot move forward without that fiscal. And I was, for council members' assistance, if you do go to rezoning, there's the staff report has the statutory criteria that you are to consider. I don't know what forms, those are the staff reports, it outlines it very clearly what things you want to consider. Regarding whether or not rezoning.
Do we have a chance to address on that rezoning, like the RS2, RS3? We have a chance to address some more of that at that time? Do we need to do that now?
No.
Ask those questions? Because I'm just wondering, like on one plan, it's got some RS2, one plan's got some RS3, and the numbers are different from what we got here and what's on here. So I just, if there was ever a plan to do completely RS2, to do the bigger lots in there, or has it always been a mixed use and having some smaller lots in there?
Well, the typical lawyer answered both. It
Okay.
depends. First of all, this would be an absolutely appropriate time to ask the
Okay.
question for council, and you can direct it to whomever you wish. And then at the time of the next meeting, again, there is no additional public hearing, but you are free to ask questions at that point in time that might play into whatever your decision criteria. But now, probably would be appropriate time to ask that question.
Should be the red and yellow one. That one. So I do want to make one clarification,
Okay.
because I know that if you can scroll it down just a little bit. So in this exhibit, you're seeing the red lots being designated as meeting the standards of the RS2 zoning district with the commitments. And the yellow lots are those that are meeting the standards of the RS3 with the zoning commitments. If you see that bold black line that goes through the site, that is actually the limits of the difference, the request of the rezoning. So everything north of that black line is being requested to be rezoned to RS2 with the commitments. All of the property to the south of that black line is requested to be rezoned to RS3 with the commitments. So even though those lots south of the black line are showing to be red, those properties are not being requested to be rezoned to RS2.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, and I guess my number is in the, on this, because the RS2s are, on this one, the RS2, there's a lot more RS2 lots than what we have on it. What's the ratio to the RS2 to the RS3? Are we going to get a lot more smaller lots, a lot more, because they're two different numbers than what we're showing,
Well, that
Like this one, the RS2 is 186, and then on this one, it's 143, I think, on the one that she handed out, on the number of lots. I guess.
I would actually anticipate that changing again
Okay.
as they go through the development process. This is just kind of a conceptual of what is being provided at this time. Once they get further into design, as long as the lots north of the black line meet the RS2, it could result in more lots or less lots, depending on other things, of open space, drainage, road construction, sidewalks, in the same south of the division line. So to have a hard, fast number of this is how many RS2 lots are going to be provided and this is how many RS3, this is a preliminary stage and we can't determine that until they would do a full design. So it's a best guesstimate.
I was just trying to look at it, and the ratios on one, there's a lot more threes than twos, and then on this one, there's a lot more twos than threes, so I was just trying to get a feel for what was going to be within the subdivision if it worked out like that way.
The exact number, Joanne's right, well,
Well,
you
no.
cannot know until you actually have
Well,
it
yeah.
back.
And the other thing to remember is the zoning is the minimum requirements. So as long as the lots designated RS3 meet the minimum, then it would be able to be approved should the rezoning go forward. And the same for the RS2. It doesn't mean that they can't exceed those minimums with the final design.
Anybody else? Lisa? Dan? I think we're ready for a motion to approve or deny the fiscal plan, so.
And have the vice president sign on behalf.
Yeah.
Need a motion either way.
I'll move to deny the fiscal plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the fiscal plan. Ma'am, would you give a
Roll call
roll
vote,
call
please.
vote?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blankenship,
Aye.
Mr. Hukin,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McGinnis,
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, so the motion to deny the fiscal plan has passed. So
Fiscal plan was not adopted.
as the fiscal plan was not adopted, what does that mean for the?
Means we'll have to go to the next hearing. And if we don't adopt the fiscal plan, then you can't annex and rezone.
Okay. And on the rezone, that is where we need a motion to table.
Table to October 4th.
Correct.
Yeah. So we would need a motion to,
Correct.
Correct.
Motion to table. That's correct.
Motion to table the rezone to the October 4th meeting.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's do the roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blankenship,
Aye.
Mr. Hukin,
No.
Ms. Jones. Aye. And Ms. McGinnis
No.
and Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, so the rezone has been tabled.
Right. Yeah, you can't deny it.
Okay.
We couldn't deny it, so I'm curious, but yes, it has been taken.
Okay, so let's go on to item number 3. Thank you, Joanna, on those two. Common Council ordinance number 21-19, annexation to be known as Yarnell annexation, 35.932 acres, and approval of Common Council resolution number 2130, adopting fiscal plan and services for annexation of certain territory, senior, and Joanna.
Instead of, I'd like to ask that number 4 be heard at the same time as it is the companion rezoning for this particular property.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that items 3 and 4 be combined. Item 4 is common council rezoning
Take it into the
So you may have a motion and a second to join 3 and 4 together. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, hearing none.
Wait just 1 second to clear out, because I know it's hard to pick up some. Give me a.
Okay. The subject property is approximately 36 acres. It's located south of Durleywood Drive and east of Graham Road. It is currently in the city of Franklin's buffer zone. At the July 20th meeting, the Plan Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation for annexation with a 9-0 vote. And also, they forwarded a favorable recommendation to rezone the property to industrial light for future industrial development, also by a 9-0 vote. This was introduced, both of these were introduced at the August 16th meeting. Public hearing this evening for both the annexation, rezoning, and then the fiscal plan. And then official action would be October 4th. And Larry Jesse and Jerry Ornell are here to present their petitions.
Jesse, you were,
We have the same time commitments. I've known Mr. Jesse for 40 years since I was 5. So.
I'm going to lean up against the post.
and I know Jerry Ornell, he's ready to leave now.
Is this still going on?
But I will remind you those of the time, sir.
My presentation very short. You can start the clock and you can almost stop it. We have nothing to add. We were here at the meetings and to the recommendations that you have, I think, in front of you on behalf of the Plan Commission. There's nothing really we can add to it. I'm sure you're all very familiar where the property is located. There are no immediate development plans. We just want to get it rezoned and also annexed into the city. That's it.